Dale Holness.
Good afternoon. It's good to be back here in the seat. Today, we're going to talk big money as we usually do. We have with us online uh, a former state representative, former county commissioner, former mayor, now property appraiser for Broward County, Mr. Marty Kiar, Marty Kiar. Uh, Welcome, Honorable Kiar, property appraiser for Broward County. We're
Thank
talking
you so much.
we're talking about money today. So first, what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about who is Marty Kiar. Tell me a little bit about
Oh,
or the audience where you were born, your schools, and that sort of stuff.
thank you, Dale. And before I do that, I want to thank you so much for having me on. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but everybody listening out there, Dale Holness is a special person, a special friend. And I always tell this, the greatest thing about serving in public office is you get to meet people you may never have met if you didn't serve in public office. And you feel very blessed to have gotten to know those people. Former Mayor Holness and I served on the Broward County Commission together. And there is nobody that I know that fought more tirelessly for everybody, especially people that needed help the most in Dale. And so I'm just blessed to call him a friend, and I actually love the guy. But with that said, and thank you, Dale, for the question. I'm very blessed to have lived in Broward County my entire life. I was actually born at Plantation General Hospital in 1977. My parents at the time lived in Pembroke Pines and ultimately moved to the town of Davie. I then went to Western High School, which I loved. And what's kind of amazing about that is my baseball coach actually turned out years later to be the grandfather of my wife, who I had not known yet. After that, I had a baseball scholarship, and I went to a small school called Palm Beach Atlantic University, where I played baseball, studied political science and history, and then I came back home to Broward, and I went to law school at Nova Southeastern University. And then after law school, I really wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps and make a difference for our community. And so I ultimately ran for the Florida House of Representatives in 2006. I was very blessed that the people of District 97 elected me. I spent 6 years in Tallahassee. And then in 2012, I was honored to get elected to the county commission, where, of course, I got to serve with you. And you and our colleagues allowed me to be the mayor of the county. And then in 2016, everybody elected me to be our Broward County property appraiser. And I can tell you, it is the greatest job alive, because every day, all day, you get to do constituent services. You get to help people with their property. You get to help seniors and veterans. I absolutely love it, and I feel so blessed, Dale, that you and everybody else in Broward County allows me to do it. Thank you for letting me say that. And of course, I'm married to a very beautiful wife. Her name is Kelly. I always tell people I married up and she settled. Nobody disagrees. We have two beautiful girls. They are 14 and 11. My 14-year-old now is in high school, and it's freaking me out, but I am very, very proud of her. And we actually have three cats as well. And that's pretty much Marty Care. But thank you for letting me give myself an introduction, Dale. I really appreciate it.
Okay, property appraiser, in your time in Tallahassee as a state rep, tell me some of the things you saw as challenges and some of the things you were able to work on that brought change to the system or improved the lives of the people.
It is such a great question. When somebody serves in Tallahassee, I always find the people that are able to get the most accomplished are people that are able to work with both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans. You work together for the common good and you pass good legislation, but also you have to be able to stand up when you disagree with some of the things that people are doing on the other side of the aisle. And as you know, just like yourself, I'm a lifetime Democrat. And when I was elected to the legislature in 2006, I treated everybody with respect, and I worked with everybody. And I was actually very honored to have had the opportunity to pass a number of laws for the people of the state of Florida. But at the same time, I was actually able to call out the people up in Tallahassee when I disagreed with some of the things they were doing. For example, when they would make it more difficult for people to vote, or if they weren't treating our education system the way that they were supposed to be. You have to stand up and do that. And for myself, my time in Tallahassee, I was actually the lead Democrat on most K through 12 education issues. So a lot of the things that I did at the time was I fought to reform the Florida Comprehensive Assessment Test, which was the FCAT, which at the time was used as a means of punishing our teachers, students in schools. I really, really worked hard to make sure that the class size amendment was fully funded so that when our teachers taught children that they didn't have too big of a classroom so our kids could have a great learning environment. I helped pass a law that required physical education in grades K through 5. There's a number of different things that I was able to do and some things I was very proud of. But one thing that I also was very proud of is the fact that, just like you and other people, I'm also a big animal lover. And I also focused pretty heavily, not just on education or reforming different types of systems, but I also wanted to protect our animals. And one of the laws, for example, that I passed prohibited and made it a crime for people to perform sexual acts on animals. And prior to that, it wasn't a crime. We made it a crime. And actually, I get very happy every once in a while when I read in the newspaper or see on the news that somebody was arrested for doing something terrible like that. So there was a number of things we were able to do over the 6 years. I really enjoyed it. But I have to tell you, Dale, the greatest thing about being property appraiser is when I served in the legislature, I enjoyed it. You got to debate education and healthcare and so many wonderful things. But you sometimes you felt so far away from the people. You didn't always get to meet the people you were helping. On the county commission, you're closer to the people. On property appraiser, you're right there with the people. And that's why actually I love this job the most because you actually feel the best because you feel like you get to help people individually.
So when you joined the county commission, I was there.
Mm. Yes, you are.
Tell me some of the things that, and I know you and I worked on a few things
Oh, yeah.
to make a difference.
Hmm.
But talk a little bit
Oh,
about
yes.
some of the things that you were able to work on
Sure.
as at the
Mhm.
county commission and the benefits to the community.
Absolutely. As you know, every single Tuesday you get to make a difference at the county commission when there's county commission meetings. And there are a few things though that really stick out in my mind. You and I, Dale, are very, very similar in that whenever we try to pass a law, we want to make sure that it treats everybody equally and fairly, and that everybody gets the benefits of it, and that nobody's left behind. And as you know, one thing that I was so proud of that we worked on together was when we decided, for example, to make it a no longer a crime if they didn't want to in Broward County to basically not arrest people if they had a misdemeanor amount of marijuana. And I always found that
Thank you very
prior to
much
this,
for
when
your support on that, joining me in co-sponsoring that piece of legislation that has made a huge difference.
absolutely. It really has. And you know what? As you know, before that, people would get arrested, especially young kids. And then it would follow them their entire life. It would make it difficult for them to get employment. They have a stigma about them. And it was just really terrible. And by the fact that you and I and the county commission worked on that together and were able to actually allow civil citations in lieu of marijuana, in lieu of an arrest, I think made a big difference. And I was very proud of you because actually after I left the county commission, you expanded that to include some other offenses that sometimes maybe some kids would do and make a little bit of a mistake, but things that should never haunt them for the rest of their life because they did something dumb when they were little. And I think that those really made a very very big difference. And then even other things, if you think about this, I remember on the county commission, I believe we passed an ordinance to ban the box.
That's correct.
And
I
what that
read on
means
that, and you
is
supported me too. That was good.
it was, as you know, people wouldn't even get an interview
Hmm.
because they'd have to check on the box that they were arrested or convicted of a crime. And some of the best people that could do a great job are never given the chance to even have an opportunity. By taking that box away off the application, they actually can get in face to face with their potential employer and actually make a difference. There's so much that we could do. But I think the thing that I enjoyed the most, Dale, is when we were up there is really the budgetary process. Because as you know, Broward County is bigger than 13 states, the District of Columbia, and all U.S. territories except Puerto Rico, and the budget is humongous. And you can do so much when you understand the budget and you know how those funds should be spent. And
The budget
that's what
this
I
year,
think I
by the
actually
way,
like the most.
has reached $6.8 billion. That's the budget
It's
for this year.
humongous.
Yes.
It
For
is,
Broward
which is
County.
greater than some
And
states.
that doesn't
Hmm.
include the school board or the city's budget or the hospital district. That's
Yes.
just the portion for the county,
The county alone.
the
It,
county alone, the county
Wow.
administration.
the,
So
it,
let me go back a little bit on the issue of uh, having marijuana, small quantity, being
mhm.
a civil citation. because a lot of folks don't understand what that means. It means that if you get caught with a small quantity of marijuana, the police really have no need to arrest you. They give you a citation. You go through a system of support if you have an addiction problem, if you have other issues, mental illness, then they try to help you with that. The counties provide the support so long as you go through the civil citation without being arrested. Marty talked about me expanding that after he left. So we made it so that the police department wasn't putting people in jail for having a little possession of marijuana. If they were out loitering, if they had a small amount of funds that they shoplifted, if they were vagrant, minor misdemeanors that we were putting people in jail at $161 a night. Say someone shoplifted $50, and it ruined their life. I'm not saying go do that, okay? But sometimes there's circumstances and situation that brings people to that, and a great deal of it is mental illness, drug addiction, and poverty. We often criminalize poverty in our country. That's why we have more people in prisons and jails than any other country in the world, which doesn't really make sense to me at all. And it's costing us a lot of money. Last budget year, $320 million went to keep the jail running.
It's a lot of money could go into other areas.
$320 million. And Marty was the most supportive of me on that issue. I can tell you that when we passed that. And then we went to civil citation where someone, ban the box, where we don't ask at the county anymore if you're applying for a job, whether or not you've been arrested or been to jail at the onset of the application. So there's no box for you to check. Because what we were finding is people, because they knew that once they checked the box, in most instances, they probably wouldn't be given an interview, that they've been arrested. So removing that allow them now to go through the process to see whether or not they're qualified and capable of doing the job. And then if it's in a sensitive area, like security at the airport or somewhere else, then we go back and check. And if we check to see if they have a problem and we found one, they get a rebuttal. So they can come back and say, look, I was 16 years old when I did that. I was with a bunch of kids around me and, we had some marijuana. We did something stupid. But here's what I've done with my life since then. I've since gone to college. I've gotten other jobs. I'm now a responsible husband and father, and I really need to take care of my kids. And that has benefited tremendously. Now, OIC that I've had on this program before benefited from that, because along with that, I passed, actually before you got there, Marty, the workforce investment program, where we look to assist people who are hard to hire, who might have had a criminal record, who might have not finished high school, not have a GED, someone that have been unemployed for a long period of time, someone who might have been on welfare, those folks who really have a difficult time getting a job. So we put that in, and OIC is now benefiting to $4.3 million in contracting opportunities to help those folks who are hard to hire, especially those coming out of our jails and our prisons, by giving them skill sets so that we don't have to take care of them for the rest of their lives, which is what usually happened previous to that. So what I'd recommend people do is check with your police department to make sure that they're utilizing these tools to help, especially our young people. And we found when I did the research that for minor misdemeanor, especially marijuana, the majority of people who were caught up with that was people under 30 years old. So it was young people that this could follow them for the rest of their lives. But let me get to the property appraiser, because we're now in budget season. And one of the things that we passed together was the additional homestead exemption for seniors, which grants them now up to $50,000 if they're a low-income senior and are residing in their own property. They don't pay taxes on up to $50,000 of the value, plus the additional $25,000 that everybody gets for homestead in their property, which is $75,000. So if you have a property that's worth 150,000, you'd only pay 75,000 value for the county portion. Not every city has followed through on what we did, Marty, but there are a lot of seniors who have benefit from that. So what I'd like for you to talk about at this point is the process for a senior. How much? What is the income range? Because I know it goes up each year. For you to get that additional homestead exemption, and what is the process for someone to get that? Because we know property taxes are going up, insurance going up, mortgage interest rates going up, and it's difficult for people to maintain a living in their home. So there's two phases. The first one was just low income seniors who make less than, I think, 30-something thousand. You can give the exact number. And then those who are long term seniors who had lived in their home for 25 years or longer, who are also low income. So tell us what the amount is for that, and what is the process for someone who is listening to get the benefit of that program?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Dale, for asking that question. And I loved that you were a champion for this at the county commission, because I have to tell you, ever since then, many of our cities followed the county's lead. And as you know, the county is basically the leader in the county. And when the county does something, a lot of cities are then inspired to do it as well. And now the majority of cities have it. Not everybody does, but the majority of them do. And we're actually working right now with Deerfield Beach. I think they're probably going to adopt it this year as well, which will get us more than 20 cities, which I think will have adopted it after they do it. And here's the way that it works. The first low-income senior exemption basically says if somebody is 65 years of age or over as of January 1st of this year, and they made under right about $35,500 last year, and if they don't file income taxes, Social Security doesn't count. If they do, they look at their adjusted gross income tax line of their income tax statement. If it's under that $35,500 number, they basically get another homestead on top of the one they currently get. Can save them, as you know, because it's a $50,000 value exemption for the county, and if they live in a city that has it, they can save another $400, $500, $600 a year, depending on the millage rate set by the county and the city. Right now, we've had about 25,058 seniors who have qualified for that countywide, which is a significant amount of seniors who struggle to make ends meet. And every single day, our office goes out to every senior community we can find, and we sign more and more. The long-term senior exemption is something I'm exceptionally proud of. And I believe that you passed that in 2020. I know that you worked closely with our office and myself. And the long-term senior exemption is really something that every city should adopt. And I try to get them to do it. Because at the end of the day, not a lot of seniors qualify for it because there's a lot that goes into it. So the loss of revenue to a city or to the county is really negligible compared to the amount of money it helps to the senior. So to give you an idea, if you're a long-term senior, you have to be over 65 years of age, made under right about $35,500, and you had to have lived in your home for 25 years or more, and the value of your home at the time of the application had to be under $250,000. Countywide right now, we have 4,701 long-term seniors who have qualified, and that is so very important because you said before, South Florida, especially Broward County, is a very expensive place to live. And we have about 2 million people that call Broward County home, and about a third of our population are seniors. And on average, the most impoverished portion of our population are seniors. And I always believe you can help a senior put a little bit more money in their pocket, they can have a little better of a life. And 4,701 long-term seniors who really, really struggle to make ends meet don't have to pay any property taxes to the county. And if they live in one of the cities that adopt to it, they don't pay any property taxes there as well. It saves them a significant amount of money and really helps them. I'm so very proud if any senior thinks that they qualified on January, if they were 65 or over on January 1st of this year and they think they qualify, they can contact me, call me by September 18th of this year. They can go to one of our outreach events. They can go online and file for it. They can come to our office. There are so many ways they can sign up, but we can sign them up by September 18th so that those exemptions will be reflected in their tax bill.
So, property appraiser, what is the website and what is the phone number? What is the email address that they may utilize to reach out to your office?
Wonderful. So we have two websites. The first one is bcpa.net. It's basically Broward County Property Appraiser.net. And the other one is web.bcpa.net, which is easier to use with a smartphone. And once they go on there, they can just click on exemptions and they can see all the exemptions that people may be entitled to. And there's a lot of them for veterans, for widows, and they have the senior exemptions. And you can click on exemptions, and if there's something you're not getting, you can actually start the application online or you can just click on their email, Marty, and your email will come right to me. I'll help you with it. You can also call us at 954-357-6904. That's my direct line. I would love to help you. And if anybody wants to email me, it's just my name, Marty Kiar at bcpa.net, MartyKiar at bcpa.net. I answer my emails all day, every day. And there's a lot of ways you can do it. Like, so you can do it online. You can come to our office. You can schedule a virtual visit, or you can go to one of our many outreach events. And what we do is, as you know, Dale, it's very difficult for people to get to downtown Fort Lauderdale on a Monday to Friday during working hours. So we actually take our office to the public, and we have what's called our mobile exemption education team. And we go to about 1,000 events a year, and we have standing events in every single one of the cities. If anybody goes to bcpa.net, and they click on the event calendar, they can see when we're going to be near their home. And as long as you contact us and sit down with our folks by September 18th, we can make sure that you get the benefit of these very important tax-saving exemptions.
So, property appraiser, we're going to take a break in about 2 minutes. But what I want you to do is to tell us again slowly, because you're a very fast talker.
It's true. Yes.
Full of energy, always full of energy. I don't know what caffeine, how much caffeine you drink each day, if you drink any at all, but you're always energetic.
Lots of coffee. I think Dad had 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke. So I'm very wired. and I get excited when I talk to you, Dale, as well. As you know, I think the absolute world of you, and so it's but yes.
So would you go ahead, slow down again? The website, the phone number,
Sure.
the email, and also give the address to your location downtown.
Perfect. So my website is bcpa.net, like Broward County Property Appraiser.net. They can also go, my phone number is 954-357-6904. My email is Marty Kiar, MartyKiar at bcpa.net. And our downtown address is 115 South Andrews Avenue, room 111 in Fort Lauderdale. We're actually located in the governmental center downtown.
Okay. And when we come back on the other side of the break, what we're going to talk about is the property valuation process, how that's done, and also how someone may dispute the valuation that we put on the property from the governmental side, and we want to talk about what is ad valorem tax rate and the different entities that you pay taxes to, which is on your tax bill. So you can probably pull one of those sheets out and run it down as to hospital district and all the other entities that we have that we actually pay taxes to. And the timeline for actually creating the values, what the values are this time around this year, and how much increase that is, and what's the total amount we're receiving from property taxes, and the total valuation.
Perfect.
So I set you up a little bit. You're going to have about a 4-minute, 5-minute break to do any kind of research you need to do on those questions. So when we come back on the break, from the break, you can talk about that. We're talking money on a Thursday afternoon, 1 to 2, Holness and Tavares. Mostly Holness.
WZBB Radio. For more info, hit us up at WZBBradio.com.
Welcome back to WZPP and WZOP. Make we talk money with Dale Holness and yours truly, Jeffrey T. Mr. Holness, over to you.
Yes, so we're back. I want everyone out there to go to the website, wzpp.com, wzppradio.com, wzppradio.com. Download the app so you can listen wherever you are. Call your friends, your family, and let them do that also. And especially for this program, if you have seniors that are property owners in Florida, reach out to them and share the information that we're imparting to you. We are about educating, informing, and empowering people. The voice of the Caribbean, certainly we are. We are broadcast live across Florida on 96.1 FM in Miami, 92.7 FM in the greater Fort Lauderdale area. In Tampa, St. Petersburg, we're 1590 AM. In Hollywood and North Miami, 102.3 FM. In Vero Beach, Port St. Lucie, it's 105.3 FM. And in Orlando, Winter Garden, Lake Mary, it's 99.7 FM. But you can go to the app and get that also. And of course, Jeffrey has his YouTube channel, Make We Talk, that you can go to and subscribe at Make We Talk. Now we're back here with property appraiser for Broward County, Marty Kiar. We have 2 million people living in Broward County that not all of them own homes, but more than half do. So it's a big task for him to manage the appraisal process, evaluating the property, and dealing with that issue. He also deals with the issue of homestead exemptions and the different exemption for seniors, for veterans, for widows. Let me talk a little bit before we go to those questions I posed earlier, Marty. Homestead exemption and save our homes. Can you explain that to folks who might be thinking of buying or who may have just bought their property, to let them understand the advantage of making their home homestead and what it takes for them to file for homestead exemption and save our home? What the fact that the valuation is limited to increase even if price go up. Speak to that a bit for us so that our audience can understand the benefits of filing for homestead exemption.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question, Dale. And, the homestead exemption is so very important. And what everybody should know is that every exemption under Florida law is in the Constitution. They were put there by the voters. So years ago, the people of Florida voted to amend the Constitution to allow for a homestead exemption. And a homestead exemption does a couple things. The first thing it does when you file for homestead, and I'll definitely let you know how to do it, but when you file for homestead and you're granted a homestead exemption, the first thing that happens is $50,000 of value gets taken off the tax roll you don't pay taxes on, can save you $800, $900, maybe $1,000 a year at the beginning, depending on your local tax rates. But the most important thing it does is it really protects you going forward, because once you have a homestead exemption, you then get protected by what's called the Save Our Homes Assessment Clause of the Florida Constitution, that basically says that every single year thereafter, the value you're taxed on cannot go more than a maximum of 3%, or the consumer price index, whichever's lower, regardless of how high your market value goes. And here's why that's so very important. Right now, people are paying a fortune for properties in Broward County. They're coming from all over the world, and they're paying top dollar for property. So the market value all throughout our county and all 31 cities, they are much higher today than they were last year, the year before, and the year before, because of what people are paying. But if somebody has a homestead exemption, their market value may go up 15, 20, 30, 40%, but the value they're taxed on cannot go up more than 3%. It's so very important. That keeps their property taxes manageable to one, they can afford their property, and also they can afford their property going forward. And for anybody to apply for a homestead exemption, here's the key. You had to have had your home on January 1st, for example, of 2023. You have to provide to our office a few things showing us your primary residence. For example, you can show us your voter registration. If you don't vote, with your declaration of domicile. You show us where your car is registered to. You basically have to prove to us that that is where you intend to make your primary residence. And if you do that, you get the benefit of that very, very valuable exemption. And if there's anybody out there that hasn't yet filed for homestead exemption, but they lived in their property on January 1st of this year, please contact me by September 18th. That's the deadline where we can make sure it's applied to you. Your homestead exemption will be reflected in your tax bill. Homestead is so important. Right now, we have 414,933 homeowners in Broward County who get the benefit of that very, very valuable exemption.
Okay, so
Great question, Dale.
so the owner would have to have bought by the 1st of January.
Yes.
And September 18th, which is coming right up on us right now, is the deadline to get the exemption for this year. Otherwise, it would have to move to next year. And they could save a substantial amount of money if they get that extra 50,000 plus lock in the valuation for no more increase than 3% per year going forward. And it could even be lower if inflation is lower, right? If the CPI is lower.
100%.
So one of the things, and that's another show that we can have a debate on. It actually puts people who don't own now at a disadvantage, because when they buy, they're going to pay on the valuation that is current rather than the folks who had owned previously. They get that lower valuation. And it's not that your house values any less. It's that because you have this homestead exemption and the value could not have gone up more than 3% per year. Let's say you bought a house 10 years ago and at the time the value was 150,000 and today it's valued 500,000. So over that period of time, you could only go up at most 3% per year on the valuation of that property. So you have a lower tax base to pay taxes on than someone who's just buying, your children buying just now. That's something that I think we need to really address in the future for those who don't own, especially our children and grandchildren who are now looking to buy. It's a burden that they pay for not owning previously. But you also can port this homestead exemption if you're trading to another property. Talk about that also for us. If you currently own and you bought another property, how you can port that homestead exemption to the next property.
That sounds great, Dale. I'll definitely talk about that. I just want to quickly touch on something you said before because it's so very important. When somebody buys their home, they pay basically the first year the property taxes of the previous owner. And this is why it's so important to say this, because January 1st is the date we determine the value of the property. When your November tax bill comes out, is what was the property on January 1st. So if you buy it after January 1st, that first November tax bill is fantastic. Usually you get the benefit of the previous owner. But then the next year on January 1st, it gets reset to market value. And this is why it's so very important for first-time homebuyers to understand this, because when the next year's tax bill comes out, usually it's going to be substantially higher than the tax bill before because it's based on because of your purchase price. And so that's when you'll get a letter in the mail from your escrow saying it's short, you owe money, things of that nature. So I always tell everybody, please go on our website at bcpa.net, go to our tax estimator, and if you know what your prospective purchase price is going to be, you can get an idea of what your property tax will be the year after the property resets. You can really make sure you can afford it. It's so very important because the property taxes the next year are going to be substantially different usually than the first year. And I'm so appreciative you brought that up, Dale. And when it comes to portability, portability is a fantastic program. Portability gives people the opportunity to move from one home into another home and not be taxed into that home. And here's the way it works. When somebody bought their home, they filed for Homestead. And when they did that, that 3% cap at the maximum that we spoke about kicks into place. So over time that they've owned their home, their market value gets much higher and their assessed value stays lower because of that cap. They have all this value between their market value and their assessed value that they don't pay taxes on. If they now decide they want to buy another home anywhere in the state of Florida for equal or greater value, they take whatever difference that is with them between their market value and their assessed value of their previous homestead, move to their new homestead, and then they pay taxes on their new assessed value. If they buy a home of lower value, they take a portion of it and they can save thousands of dollars a year in their property taxes. And here are the keys. You can move up to $500,000 of value to your new home, whatever you've accumulated. You have to use it within 3 tax years. And for our purpose, the tax year starts on January 1st. And you can use it anywhere in the state of Florida. And what I'd like to do real fast, Dale, is just give a real world example where somebody moved the full $500,000 of value to another property that allowed them to afford their new property. And it kind of explains how this works. There was a couple that bought a home in Weston Hills in the city of Weston when Weston was built. And Weston Hills, as you know, is a pretty expensive community in Weston, but they bought it decades ago when there were still homes in there affordable for young families. When they did that, they filed for Homestead. And as soon as they did that, their cap, the 3% cap, kicked into place. So fast forward a couple decades, their kids went to Cypress Bay High School, the University of Florida, and now they're empty nesters, and all they wanted to do was move to a condo in downtown Los Angeles, but they were very afraid they couldn't afford the property taxes in that condo. So we looked at their property in Weston. The market value of their property was about $900,000, but their assessed value was about $400,000 because of that cap. They had the full $500,000 of value they weren't paying taxes on. What they did was they sold their property in Weston, and then they bought a condo in downtown Fort Lauderdale for about $900,000. And what we were able to do was take the full $500,000 of value they weren't paying in Weston to their condo in Fort Lauderdale, which dropped their taxes to about $400,000, which basically meant their taxes were very similar to what they were in Weston. They could afford to do it. Even myself, when I moved from the town of Davie to Plantation to a single family home, I had about $70,000 in portability value that really helped me. And what everybody should understand about portability value is not only does it help you save thousands of dollars the first year, but you also save that money every single year going after, because that value keeps on going and you don't pay taxes on it as long as you own the property. It is a fantastic program, and you can use it as many times as you want. If anybody moved their homestead last year and they haven't yet filed for portability, they can do it by September 18th of this year. And if they just go online at bcpa.net, there's an application there. Please do it. It can save you a lot of money. And the other thing I just wanted to quickly add, the key is moving your homestead. So there's actually people where we can go back in time that may not have applied their portability value within the three tax years, but they moved within the 3 tax years. And so every single month or so, we actually find somebody that maybe 5 or 6 years ago moved their homestead timely, but didn't apply portability, and we're actually now able to apply their portability value going forward. Portability is a fantastic thing. I hope everybody utilizes it.
Great. Good to know that you're looking out for the people. Now, each year, you create through your office the value of properties to determine what the tax amount will be for the government to collect the taxes that is used to run the government, to build your roads, take care of your schools, your hospital districts, and all those things. Do me a favor, if you can, run down the list of different entities that the property tax goes to support in Broward County.
Sure. We have a lot of entities that are taxing authorities. The largest, of course, is the school board. So when people pay their property taxes, they pay it basically in an aggregate amount to the tax collector. And then that money is distributed to the different taxing authorities based on what they're owed. The school board is the largest taxing authority that we have in Broward County. Then you have the county commission. Then you have all the 31 cities, and so you would pay it to whatever city you live in. But then you have, if you live in one of the hospital districts, you would pay to them. And then there are other smaller taxing authorities, for example, the Central Broward Water Control District and others that also set their tax rates as well. And so right now, every person in Broward County received a document from me in the mail over the last month. It was the Truth and Millage Notice. It's not a tax bill. It's basically a document so people can make sure they're overly paying their property taxes. And it actually lists all the taxing authorities that are assessing taxes to them this year. And it also lists the dates and times that they're discussing their tax rates and their budgets. And I believe the county commission's first budget hearing, I think, is today, and they have another one coming forward. So I always tell everybody, please review that document. And if you don't have it anymore, go to our website at bcpa.net, type in your property, and you can click on your trim notice, and you can see when your local taxing authorities are going to be discussing those tax rates. You can let your local elected officials and the members of those authorities know if you agree with them, if you're concerned about them, because as you know, Dale, every elected official wants to hear from their constituents about this. I know you and I did all the time. It's important so your local elected officials can make the best decision possible about what tax rate to set.
So the other part that if you don't agree with the valuation that the property appraiser put on your property, there's a process under which someone can go through to dispute that and to get it adjusted if they are not in agreement with the value that they believe the property appraiser puts on it? What's the process and what's the timeline?
That's a fantastic question. So for everybody out there, we determine the value of everybody's property as of January 1st. So again, when your November tax bill comes out, it's what was the property on January 1st. And we're not fee appraisers, we're mass appraisers. We really don't know what the inside of properties look like, the bathrooms or the kitchens. All we really know is how large the property is. We also know which location. And then to determine a market value for a property of existingly owned property, we really just try to look at the comparable sales in your neighborhood, adjust those at your property to determine a value. And then the only time we really know the true value of a property is when it changes hands in an arm's length transaction. And generally, that's going to be the sale utilized the year after. And so that's for residential property. For income property, whether they're hotels or malls or something of that nature, we look at comparable sales, but also we can look at the income that they produce. And then there are specific properties in Broward County where there are no comparable sales. They're not income producing properties, but they're so unique that we can actually use what's called the cost approach and figure out what it costs from the bottom to build it. And the way, when everybody looks at the trim notice, and that's why the trim notice is so important, it's not a tax bill. It's so people can make sure that we have their value correct and they're getting all their exemptions. If they think that we made a mistake, the first thing they can do is just call me, email me, let me take a look at it, and let our staff take a look at it. And if we think that there's data out there that can help us bring down that value and bring down the assessed value, which will bring down your property taxes, we always will. And I'll give you a quick example before I talk about the value adjustment board. Yesterday, when I was in my office, I got a call from a resident. And the resident called me and said, Marty, I understand why you valued my property the way that you did, because on January 1st, you looked at it, and there were all these comparable sales in my neighborhood that showed that my market value and my assessed value should be where it's at. But my property is different. I had a lot of water damage. I have insurance claims. My property is no longer the value of those other properties. And he actually sent to me his insurance information, pictures of the inside, and it actually let us bring down his market and his assessed value, which reduces property taxes. Now, if we can't help somebody out, if our data basically shows, no, we think we're correct, then the people have a really great option that they can do. They can file a petition with the Value Adjustment Board of Broward County. The Value Adjustment Board is basically an entity run by the county that settles disputes between the property appraiser and the petitioner. The filing fee is only $15, so anybody can do it. And if you do that, then what you can do is you go before a special magistrate if it's a valuation issue, and you let the special magistrate know why the property appraiser was incorrect. Then the property appraiser will show why we arrived at a value, and then the special magistrate will make a determination to get to the true value of the property. But the other thing that's very important about that is if we're working on a property, or if we're working on a property, or if somebody has not yet spoke to us about this property, if they file a petition with the Value Adjustment Board, it actually allows us to work on that property after our September 18th deadline. And then we can work on it all the way until the petition hearing. The Value Adjustment Board is a great process. I believe it has 2 county commissioners, a school board member, and 2 citizen members who actually serve on the board that oversees all the special magistrates. And it's a great avenue for our residents to go when our office doesn't believe the data allows us to help them.
So we've got that. Now, you have on your website, I haven't looked recently, but you had on it a comparative ad valorem tax rate from city to city. I want you to talk about whether that's still up, and what does ad valorem means. Most people have no idea what it means for ad valorem. What is that, and what does that tax rate means in terms of calculating the taxes that's paid to the different entities?
That is such a fantastic question. We actually do have that up there. We have this year's 2023 taxable value report is up there. And, right now the cities are determining what their tax rate's going to be. But when you pay your tax bill is generally consists of 2 different parts. It has your ad valorem and your non-ad valorem. Your ad valorem is based on the value of your property. So the property appraiser's office determines the value of your property, and then the local tax authority set their millage rate, and that brings in the amount of money that they need to operate. You then have your non-ad valorem. The non-ad valorem is nothing that we handle, but it's done by the various cities and for the county for the unincorporated areas. And your non-ad valorem would be for your garbage fees, for example, or your water and sewer fees, things of that nature that the county needs, your fire fees that they need to operate. And just to give you some interesting facts, Dale, right now, the county commission's operating millage rate is right about what they had last year is right about 5.592. That's the operating millage. And if they decide to keep that the same as last year, they're actually going to be receiving another right about $150 million more this year than last year. Another interesting fact is the school board's operating millage rate is about 6.4250. And the school board is really going to be receiving a significant more additional revenues this year than last year. If they keep it the same, they'll get about $200 million more this year just for that. But then also, you may remember in the last election, the people of Broward County voted to allow them to increase, to add another $0.5 to their millage and to go towards teacher salaries and to hardening schools, things of that nature. That'll bring in, I believe, another $250 million. So they're going to be receiving $150 million. So the school board itself will have about $350 million more of revenue this year than last year if it keeps its millage rate the same. And that's pretty much the same for all cities. And the city which actually with the highest increase in value was Dania Beach at 24.76%. But what's neat about that is that really stems mostly from the FP&L power plant went fully online, which added another $500 million of tangible personal property to the tax roll. And so now they pay actually on $1 billion of value in Dania Beach, which is a significant amount of new revenue that is going into Dania. So it's those are some interesting facts, but that's really how it's set up.
So a mill refers to 1,000. So if you have 5.5 mil, it's $5.50 per thousand in value that you're paying.
Yes.
So on 100,000 value, you would pay $550 to that taxing entity. Part of what I'd say to or my listeners is you need to pay attention to your city commission and your county commission and all these taxing authorities to ensure that the money is being spent wisely, that they're giving you the additional homestead exemption if you're a senior, if you qualify for it. These are important things to help you save on your taxes. So Marty, what is the total valuation for the county this year? And how much money in total will that bring into, let's say, Broward County?
So Broward County, as you know, is a massive place. We actually have more people than 13 states and more parcels than many states. And the total market value for the county, basically, if you took all the commercial, residential, and tangible personal property and you sold it on the open market, you would get right about $433.9 billion, which is enormous. If you look at the market value, though, or the assessed value for the county is right about $321.8 billion. And so what that means is when it comes to property taxes, the additional, based on whatever they determine their millage rate, the county commission could see anywhere from I would say 1.5 to maybe $1.7 billion of revenue just from property taxes alone. The school board will receive anywhere from 1.9 to I would say $2.15 billion for their property taxes, depending on what they do with their millage rate. And that's pretty much the same. Then it's broken down for all the cities as well.
Property appraiser Marty Kiar, thank you for being on. Would you quickly give the contact information again as we go to break?
I will. And thank you, Dale, for having me on. My information is, if anyone wants to email me, it's martykiar@bcpa.net. That's MartyKiar@bcpa.net. And my number is 954-357-6904.
Thank you so much, Marty.
Thanks, Dale. Have a great day. You're the best.
We're not the airlines, but we can take you to the islands every Sunday at Island Vibe Sunday.